Welcome to video number 2. This is a video about finding funding.
Now, most charities are obscure, difficult to find, and aren't listed anywhere on the internet. That's why most students have a real headache when it comes to actually finding funding. And this section will give you the strategy you need to make this process as easy as it possibly can be. Now, the first thing you've got to bear in mind is to have a general strategy rather than just looking willy-nilly at various places. So get an A4 pad of paper and write down as many names, email addresses, website addresses, postal addresses and telephone numbers of charities that you think on the face of it you will be eligible for. Now that's the crucial distinction here. Because charities and trusts are often quite obscure bodies and the information isn't actually listed up front, you're going to need to ask them with an initial letter of inquiry before you're absolutely sure that they will actually fund you. And we'll move on to that in the next section. So, you should adopt, therefore, a two-pronged strategy here. The first is that you shouldn't discount charities unless they're obviously inappropriate or they obviously rule you out, because many charities are actually quite flexible. The next thing is that you should be very careful to make sure that the charities that you list do make grants to individuals, because the majority of charities don't make grants to individuals, only to organisations or to other charities, and so you won't be eligible for them. Right, moving on now to the 5 places where you can actually look for funding.
The first place is our funding database in the next section of this website. The database contains over 600 charities sourced by us. The database is searchable by various categories such as age and nationality. More will be added each month, so don't forget to sign up to our newsletter.
The next place you can look at, the second place you can look at, are a number of other websites on the internet. Now, there aren't any definitive databases, apart from ours, about charities and trusts. And so therefore it's a question of looking at some websites which aren't necessarily directly about charity funding and finding what you can. Now, the first of these websites you can have a look at is postgraduate studentships. Now, although this website is about big public scholarships mainly, you can look at the General Funders tab on the left-hand side of the screen, and that will get you through to a list of charities and trusts, which is quite useful. The next place you can have a look at is Research Professional. Now, your university will probably have a subscription to Research Professional, and this is a really good place to look if you're interested in finding funding for conferences, travel, equipment and general research expenses. It's not useful, however, for fees and maintenance grants. You can also have a look at RD funding, especially if you're a scientist or a medical student. That's quite handy. You can look at uni grants, which is useful if you want to find charities relating to your postcode, i.e. where you live, or indeed your subject of study. Finally, you might want to have a look at Turn to Us. Turn to Us is a general charity funding database for members of the public, not just students, but it does have a lot of really useful bodies on that individuals can apply for. The third place you can look, after you've checked out those websites, is books in the library. Now, your local library will have a number of really useful telephone directory style books which you can use to try and find funders. This is really important because a lot of charities and trusts aren't actually listed anywhere online, and so sometimes people who don't look in the library miss a lot of very exciting potential funders. The first book you can have a look at, which Shizu will show you right now, is called The Grants Register. Now, this is a very, very thick book and will almost certainly get you a number of useful potential leads. Another place you can look is the Guide to Grants to Individuals in Need, published by the Director of Social Change. This is very useful. They also do one called the Educational Grants Directory, which is exactly the same as that, but purple. There are also just simply a number of other books that pretty much every library will stock. Just have a look upon that bookshelf and have a look at some books. Use your research skills, browse, and you will be able to find a number of useful bodies depending upon how much time you're prepared to put in. Finally, you can also look at some local charity books as well, but you might need to ask a librarian to let you know about those.
The fourth place to find funding is through learner societies. Each scholarly discipline will be represented by a learned society, such as the Society for Neuroscience. You can easily find them online by searching for your subject plus the name society. Many learner societies also organise their own conferences, of which they also offer travel grants. Be aware that they only support eligible members, so you may need to pay a small fee to join the society.
Fifthly and finally, you just ask for advice. You can check out the Educational Grants Advisory Service. You need to give them a number of details, your name, your course of study, some biographical details like your age and nationality, and hopefully they'll be able to give you a few suggestions. You can also ask the Education Department at your local council if they have any knowledge about local charities which fund postgraduate study, and also you can even ask your parish council too.
That's the Finding Funding video. Thanks for listening. If you want any more information, please click on Jacob the Crow at the bottom of the page.